Welcome to Dad in the Shed. I'm Mark. I'm going to try and build an electric guitar. I have some wood. It's a Peely, it's 2-piece, and I got it off eBay for nearly £40. I'm not going to attempt a neck, I'm going to buy a neck. But I want to build a single cut double humbucker guitar somewhere between a Telecaster and a Les Paul. I'm going to carve it a bit. I'm going to make it hopefully look good. I said hopefully again. I say hopefully far too much. I will show you the process as I go. It's cut. I need to sand the edges, get them flat. I've now bought glue, I've bought sash clamps. I need to do a bit more work in here so that I've got a bench vise. I need to somehow fit it to a plank of wood that's not really a bench. I'll probably show you that, or at least a time lapse of it. So this is one of the projects I'm really excited about doing. It's going to take a while because these things cost money to buy, the tools cost. I've been picking up things month by month. Like I say, I've got wood, glue, a whole load of sandpaper, a couple of old planes that I need to try and work on and get sharp. I've got the sash clamps for gluing the body, and I have no router. I've seen people do it with drills and chisels for making cavities. I'm going to have to try that. I can't afford a router. Well, I can't afford one at the moment, so I'm going to try and do it by hand. I'm going to try and use tools, electric tools, wherever I can, but it's going to have to be a jigsaw and a drill, basically. Of course, I've already thought of the name of the guitar company and how it's going to, sell really well and all that kind of thing, because, So, again, stick with me. Hopefully, I'll come up with something good. I'll at least have a guitar at the end of it. Hopefully, it'll be a good one. Hopefully. Yeah, there we go. So, from now on, you'll see me start putting together a guitar, an electric guitar with a probably bolt-on neck, but I'll see. I won't be using templates or anything like that. I'll be freeform. I've watched enough. Well, not enough. I've watched a lot of videos. I've watched a lot of sorry, I'm just getting used to, I keep looking at the actual screen rather than the camera itself, so that hopefully will come in time. I've watched a lot of videos. I will continue watching videos on how to build guitars, the woodworking side of it, and yeah, let's see how we go. Okay, thank you. So this is the bench vise. I got a spare bit of wood, glued and screwed it to my desk, and screwed the bench vise into the bottom, and it's solid. It does its job. It holds the wood, and now onto making the two pieces of wood fit together, which proved a little challenging, but hey, it works. That's my wonderful hands there, just showing the movement. It is a bit it moves a little, but once it's all tight, it does the trick. So here we go. I've put the two pieces of wood together, and although they're pretty close, there is a bit of a gap. I saw this technique on a planing video on YouTube. Basically, if you can fit the paper through, although it's within a certain tolerance, it's just not good enough. I needed to get these two flat together without any movement. Also figuring out how to do a speeded up video, which helps with boredom. So I'm marking out on the wood where I think the uneven surface is. It's the first time I've done it, and it felt like when I put the square on it, I was getting a straight edge. I was getting a corner. There were certain areas that were obvious, and this does depend on whether the wide edges, the long edges, are actually square to the narrow edge. I kind of nothing else to go on at the moment, so I'm just doing my best. I've got the light on behind it, so I can see if there's any light coming through underneath the square, and then just marking where it feels like it needs to be trimmed down. So here's my plane in action. I've watched several videos, I've watched people who know what they're doing, and to start with I just kind of was acting, basically, making it look like it should do. Maybe if I do that long enough I'll get some kind of technique and be able to do it with proficiency. So measuring again, I think my expectations are a bit high there, because as you saw, I didn't do a great deal of planing there and thought it might make a difference. Again, lining it up with the light behind it, you can see if there's any light coming through, holding it tight, pushing it against the edge to see if that made a difference. It felt good, it felt right, but I kept planing away, taking what I thought I should be taking off, and still really couldn't get those edges to be square. At some points it felt square across the when I was measuring it at different points, but it still didn't feel flat. Now, another technique I learned from watching other videos is just simply running your fingers over it. And I think Ben Crow of Crimson Guitars points out that you actually notice more imperfections with your fingers than you can just by looking at it. So I tried to do a combination of both, using the square, using my fingers, looking at it. Just putting this on, I'm not good enough yet. The proficiency isn't there with the tools for me to know exactly what I'm doing. Again, I'm acting at the moment. I'm just trying to figure it out by doing it. The plane is one that I got given to me. It takes these little blades that I bought a pack off Amazon. Fairly sharp, do the job. When I'm running the plane over, I'm getting shavings across the entire blade, so that's a good sign. Now the cut in the wood was slightly off, so I've got about an inch and a half overhang at each end, but I'm still getting this wobble, and I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't put my finger on it. There was one there, and it was just bugging me. I couldn't get to the bottom of where this imperfection was, this non-square edge. So lined it up there, trying to wobble it, trying to figure out where it is. Nice fashion statement there with the shirt tucked in. Hey, it'll come into fashion one day. So trying the other side to see if that was the cause of the issues I was seeing. Again, same process, getting the square on it, running the straight edge along to see if that made a difference. Yes, shavings, lots of shavings. Always keep tidy, apparently. That's a good thing. So, speed it up again, because this is rather boring to watch, and my eyebrows really are crazy. Anyway, marking again on the board to see where I need to take them off. There we go, super speed. I'm that good. Measuring again, just wobbling it with my fingers to find out where I need to go. Sighting it, planing it again. That feels better with the square, but again, either I'm not good with that, the tools are rubbish, of course. Trying it again. One thing I stumbled upon, and I don't know if it's this part of the video, I'll have to get better at seeing where my videos are beginning and ending, but I started to realize where the wobble was, and I think this just came from trial and error, basically. Putting the wood together, feeling where the wobble was. Again, it just seemed to be right across. So I did go back to the square, I did use the straight edge to try and figure out what the problem was, and it was just bugging me, just doing my head in. It's better than it was, but I don't think it's enough to actually glue it together. Getting the paper out again. Yeah, look at that, straight in. I mean, that's where the wood is resting, so I'm basing this on whether the wood is actually resting in a good position or not. It's fine at that side, it's not at the other. Just trying to figure out where that bump was that I needed to shave out to get it to sit together. It's tight. The tolerances in parts of it were really good. Now, there's wobble on that straight edge, which means there's some imperfection that it's sitting on, and so it's letting the straight edge move. Again, learned little tips from watching other people do it, how to get a straight edge without using machines, basically. A bigger plane would help, a longer plane so that you're running it across the entire board at once. I'm using what I've got hold of. I think when I first started this, and it's not on the video, I was just using what felt like a straight piece of sharpening stone, flat piece, wrapped in sandpaper, and I think that may have worked, but it would have taken me a lifetime, I think. I can feel imperfection with my fingers, but again, just learning how to do it, I couldn't really read those imperfections well enough. Again, lining the grain up. See, you can see the rock there. It's still not quite right. Now, what did I do? There's too much grey in that beard. It's becoming more wood coloured, which is pretty cool. That's all right. Trying to move it around to see where, if the trouble stays in one area or if it moves with the board as I move it. Yep, trying the other side. I still really don't know what I'm looking for. I'm just seeing if something will come clear to me as I try these different things. It's trial and error. At this stage, I'm trying to teach myself. I've watched videos and I've seen what they do, and of course it looks easy because they do know what they're doing. Trying the paper again to see if that will help me. It did to some extent, and it helped me get a better feel of where the wood should be playing down. I suggest, if you know anyone who's a woodworker, speak to them, get some tips directly, use their tools, use their workshop if you can. Now, I think it might be this point where I actually tried a bit of pressure on each end of the board and to see where the wobble was, and I started to get to feel that each end was pretty stable. It felt tight. Testing one end, testing the other, and there was not much wobble in it. And then I think it's here where I do start to move to the middle and can feel the wobble. So to me, that meant it was somewhere in the middle that was causing the problem. So without a great deal of knowledge, I just decided to pretty much attack the middle of the wood then. It feels about there, it feels something. Can I feel it? Not sure. Let's attack it with the plane, see if it makes a difference. I'm doing it on an angle to try and limit where I'm planing. At this point I want to just try and hit the middle of that wood. because I just feel there's something proud in the middle that's causing it to rock. So, yeah, planing down the centre, again, it's probably bad planing technique, but it seemed to work. And maybe, just maybe, there, I think, yeah, okay, thumbs up, that should mean it's okay. So this is ready to glue. In the next part of the video, that's exactly what I'll do. Use glue. I'm using Titebond. It is Titebond Original. I think it's yellow glue, but it's basically Titebond Original Wood Glue, professional strength, interior use. Sands easily, short clamp time, water cleanup. There's the mess, or fruits. Probably not fruits, that's the fruit there. I got these sash clamps, I could only afford 2, and I don't have any more, so lining this up, figuring out how they work all at the same time. I have seen that you present the wood to each other to make sure it's all lined up beforehand, so that's exactly what I'm doing, looking for the grain matching, making sure it's all good to go. Pause. I will pause in these videos. I will get better at just talking nonsense, I guess. Not nonsense, but pretty much nonsense, but hopefully entertaining nonsense. Here we go. I got some, what did I get? It's like it is clear plastic, really thin. It was used for marketing and there was loads of offcuts. So I've basically cut that down to credit card size. Now, I've seen people do this, get enough glue on, spread it around, get a good coating on. I don't know if I'm using too much here, maybe both sides, not again sure if that's really a requirement. And a good tip that I watched from another guy is basically if you clamp this together, you don't need to put much pressure on. This glue itself will soften the wood, get into the wood, and then as it hardens, it's kind of meshing the fibres of the wood from the 2 pieces together. So if you put too much pressure on, you're forcing the glue out, and there's not enough glue in the joint to actually stick it together well enough. So if you tighten the clamp, and as much glue comes out as you've put in, then it's not going to be a tight bond. So here, spreading it out, I could have probably put some kind of serrated edge on, which would probably be better, and I'll do on the next go. Of course, this will be amazing. I struggle doing these things and wanting them to be perfect. Now, this is the first time I've ever done this, and having never done it before, I've never failed at doing it. So doing this and knowing that I'm going to try not to, but there will be failure, is difficult. I'm 44 and I still struggle with failing at things, and so I don't do things, which is why I've now decided that that's ridiculous and I need to start. So this is the start. This is trying to do something, trying to get over that fear of failure, and also hopefully end up with something pretty cool at the end. Good coverage of glue. I'm wiping glue off on a kitchen roll and it's already getting tacky, so it's kind of pointless. That's just going to make a mess, but hey. Are we ready? Are we going to put these pieces together now? I think we're not far off. I'm just clearing any excess off the wood to try and make it a bit easier later on, but it's going to need a lot of cleaning, a lot of sanding, a lot of planing. I heard a thing where basically if you think you've done enough sanding, you're only probably about halfway through, which is going to be what I do, and it probably won't even be halfway through because, again, this is starting. I can feel that that's already getting a bit tacky. Pressing it in, getting it on, making sure there's good coverage. Getting your hands dirty, it's messy. No, let's face it, it's messy. It's good, but it's messy. This glue does come off, it's water soluble. It's actually quite satisfying when it sticks on your hand and you can rub your fingers together and it peels. That's maybe just me. So, getting the wood into place, getting it lined up, moving it around, that's again spreading the glue, making sure it's okay. The wood did seem to have a bit of a bow on it, so when I did tighten it up, I had to just hold the edges, certainly one end up a little bit, to make sure it was flush. Now, having done this and tightened it and it's now glued and it's now sat next to me as I'm recording this, there is a bit beyond the furthest away clamp that you can see that you can't see daylight, but you can see something, and it should be outside of the guitar body once I've cut it all down. I'm going to use glue and sawdust to fill things if I need to, as me getting used to the clamps and figuring out how they work. Excuse me. I need more clamps. I think everybody probably needs more clamps in their life at some stage. They hold things together, and that's always a good thing. Life clamps. Somebody needs to involve life clamps. Yeah, so here is tightening the clamps. That's me just holding the edges together to make sure they're flush. And I basically left. I think you can leave the glue kind of sets up after about an hour. You can leave it longer, and I ended up leaving this overnight. In fact, like I say, as I record this, it's still pretty much in that glued state. It sat next to me with no more work done, because stuff. But I end up with the two pieces of wood together, and I can start on the next bit, which this is the procedural bit in a way. It gives me something now to work with. The next bit should be the bit that's, I say, fun. Probably just as terrifying, because now I've got this piece of wood, and at the moment it's ready. It's ready to be a guitar body. Once I start, that's the chance I get to mess it all up and have a catastrophe and fail at it. So, perseverance. Thumbs up, yes, positive. And I think, yes, there we go. Stood up and ready for the next stage. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.